because my main goal with writing this book was to empower people to use their sense of smell more. And to hear you say, "Oh, I want to get more essential oils," or even when I'm out in the garden or taking a walk, that I'm more aware of my sense of olfaction. Like it is exactly what I wanted this book to do because I think people just don't realize how important our sense of smell is and how it influences how we feel. And a lot of people experienced this, during COVID and they lost their sense of smell and they were like, I had no idea that I smelled so many things to look out for danger, such as soiled milk, or to know if food is going bad, or if there's smoke in the air. And I didn't know it was so important with how I connected with others. Like it plays a huge role in just our bonding with others. So for me to hear you say that you felt empowered to just use your sense of smell more was like, oh, like it almost made me cry because that's exactly what like I feel like my goal in life is to do. So just I'm so grateful for the Watkins team for bringing Aroma Alchemy to life and just sharing it with the world. So a little bit about my background and how it led me to this book. So like you said, I am a registered nurse. I'm a certified aromatherapist. I live in Seattle, Washington in the USA. And I actually grew up on a Christmas tree farm. And I have always been, I know that sounds very Hallmarkish to say because my name's Holly and I grew up on a Christmas tree farm, but I feel like it's just beautifully aligned that way. But I've always been very aware of scents and how they influence how we feel. And I remember as a very, very young child, whenever I was upset, I would often just go outside. Like at 7 years old, I remember going outside and walking through the Christmas trees and I would take that big deep breath and I would just absorb all of those alpha pinene, those chemical constituents that I kind of talk about in the book. And I noticed my whole body just relaxed and I always just felt better. And just they immediately calm me down. And as I begin to grow up into adulthood, like I really just love smelling things. And my husband and I actually got married on my parents' Christmas tree farm in 2010, and I wore lavender in from my parents' garden in my hair. We actually exchanged perfume and cologne as our gifts to each other the day of our wedding. Um, because we knew that forever engraved in our minds that that scent would be associated with our wedding day. And it's so cool now. And I mean, we've been married for 15 years. Whenever we use that particular cologne or that perfume, like it just takes us right back to that day. I really didn't know much about aromatherapy, fast forward many years, besides that it was like calming. I think a lot of people associate aromatherapy with calming, right? And when we had children, I was just looking for ways to reduce stress and calm my anxiety and just promote self-care. You're doing all these different things and you were in this really like busy life and I just wanted just a quick way to have a little bit of self-care into my day. So I started looking into essential oils and I bought a few. I think a lot of people start off with just like lavender essential oil and I think that's the first one I started off with. And I enjoyed just smelling it and how it made me feel really calm and how it helped me sleep at night. And I was just kind of intrigued by like how it worked. I have a bachelor's of science in nursing, so I have just a very like science focused mind. And I started noticing different things in my home, like when my children were feeling sick. I remember diffusing this really classic blend when we have like congestion and we're sneezing a lot and dealing with allergies. So it's a blend of lavender, lemon, and peppermint. And I remember diffusing it, and my kids were pretty young. They were around like 4 to 5 years old. And not only were they like coughing a lot less, they weren't sniffling quite as much, but they weren't like arguing and bickering like kids do. And they were just calm and happy and I felt really calm and relaxed and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of interesting. Like why is this?" And we started using black spruce. We diffused it at nighttime to just help support sleep. And my husband works in medicine, a really, really stressful field, and often would just wake up so many times throughout the night. And we started diffusing black spruce and he started sleeping through the whole night and didn't wake up. And I just thought that's so interesting. And that little science mind of mine was like, what is going on? So I have just this deep appreciation for science and research, and I just was just enthralled by it at that time. I started reading a ton of research articles and books all about olfaction. I even got like medical textbooks that like ear, nose, and throat doctors read, that cognitive neuroscientists read. Like I just was like just really fixated on learning all about the science of how our sense of olfaction works in our brain and how it influences how we feel and all of the amazing studies. I'm like, why aren't more people talking about these studies? So I founded Science of Essentials, which is like my Instagram account, which has a following of over 1.5 million followers now. But at the time, I thought, oh, this will just reach a couple of those little science nerds out there that appreciate knowing a little bit more of the science of aromatherapy. And thankfully, people loved it and they learned how to use essential oils to enhance their daily lives. And I really wanted it to be this bridge to really bridge this gap between like the traditional wisdom and remedies, but also with this modern science and what we know now. And I wanted to provide it in a way that was like accessible and practical and just really like empowering and really include a lot of that evidence-based research in it. And at the time, in hospitals in particular, well, we still are battling this in the United States, but there was just a huge opioid epidemic, and the healthcare system really released this like wide initiative to decrease opioid use. So I started just kind of sharing that research of what all these studies were showing and educating healthcare professionals and bringing more aromatherapy programs to the bedside to help patients. And we did this in the emergency room and postoperative care units and labor and delivery and psychiatric centers and hospice and palliative care. And we had just incredible results. And, I kept thinking, like, if we can reduce pain and anxiety and support sleep for patients that are in this really stressful environment, such as a hospital, then we also should be able to do this within our homes. So I wanted to create something that was an easy, practical resource for people to bring this into their homes. And I read and I read and I read. I have so many different aromatherapy books. And I noticed that there wasn't a book that included like everything that I desired. Like, I wanted a book that included like the science of essential oils and included the research and included practical ways to use them into our daily lives and also included like just recipes and just there's not really a great book out there. I felt like a lot of them um, are just overly simplistic or they're just the opposite, like overwhelmingly, like really technical. And I wanted to create something that kind of was both, that was really good for beginners, but also had substance and depth for those that maybe already understand aromatherapy or work like as healthcare professionals, already work in science. Um, what we know aromatherapy works, but I often feel like a lot of people don't understand um, the validity of how that science proves it. So that's kind of where Aroma Alchemy was born. And I'm just beyond proud of this book. Um, you know, it is, like you said, like Sarah I can't say her last name because it's so beautiful. O'Flattery did a beautiful job with like the design work, and I wanted someone to be able to read the book, but also feel like calmed as they were reading it. And she just did a beautiful job of like creating that sense with it, with like such beautiful like line drawings and um, just making it feel like peaceful. Like I wanted the book to feel peaceful. And I did most of the photography for the book. So it really kind of aligns with that vision of just, I mean, if we could infuse like lavender in the pages, I would have loved to do that. But I'm very, very proud of how it turned out. And, at the heart, this book, I just wanted it to be an invitation for us to explore just really the art and science of aromatherapy in a way that feels like enriching, but also like really approachable. So the book kind of starts off. with like the content starts off talking about kind of like how to get started with aromatherapy for those that are beginners. So, what exactly is aromatherapy? How are essential oils made? What to look for when we're purchasing essential oils? Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, the essential oil industry has really exploded in the last several years. I think its net worth is around like almost $50 billion. Actually, I'm sorry, $50 million, not billion. And unfortunately, a lot of companies will see that as a means to a profit and retail and sell essential oils that aren't necessarily pure. They'll either, adulterate them, include maybe an additive, either a synthetic fragrance to them, and then label them as essential oils, or they will dilute them down with a carrier oil and then just sell them as pure essential oils. So in the book, I really wanted to make sure I talked about like how to purchase high quality essential oils because synthetic fragrances, they just don't work the same as impacting the body as pure essential oils. And there's been many studies that have shown this. There was actually a great study done in Taiwan a few years ago with teachers, and they compared the effects of synthetic bergamot versus pure bergamot essential oil. And the researchers found that only with the pure bergamot essential oil, that those teachers had significant physiological changes within the body. So they had a significant increase in their heart rate variability. So heart rate variability is really important for showing how resilient to stress we are. It shows that we are in like this parasympathetic nervous state activity. And only the pure bergamot essential oil did that, not the synthetic. So it really is important to choose pure essential oils when we're purchasing them. Also, in the beginning section, we kind of go over different ways to use essential oils. So, using them just through inhalation, just smelling them is like the easiest way to use them, and the safest way to use them, and what a lot of people really feel comfortable just smelling them. I also talk about how to use them topically, so applying them to our skin, so how to dilute them, different ways to use them topically, such as in baths or making rollers or massage oils or salves or body butters and things like that. We go over a lot of the safety when it comes to how to use essential oils, as well as how to grow an aromatherapy garden. So I'm a huge gardener. I love just being in the garden and getting my hands in the dirt. And I really wanted to include a section on how to grow an aromatherapy garden and different fragrant plants that we can grow that can support health and healing. And then the book kind of goes through its essential oils for the mind, body, and home. So there's three main sections in the book, one going over the mind, one the body, and one the home. My favorite is the mind. I loved writing the section on how to use essential oils just to support our mind. There's a fascinating link between, scent and memory and mood. And we can use that just to improve our overall like emotional well-being. So the section kind of goes over how to use essential oils to support stress and sleep, but also mental clarity and energy, and even like spark just intimacy with others. What we know about our sense of smell is that like it is really important for our connection, our bonding with others. The main focus, probably my favorite in this book, was just talking about using it for stress. So our sense of smell has just this really profound connection with the limbic system. So, the limbic system is a part of our brain that is important for emotions and behaviors and motivations. It's actually estimated that 75% of our emotions that we experience on a daily basis are influenced by scent. So, 75% of the emotions that we experience on a daily basis are influenced by scent. And I know that stat always seems like very shocking to people because they're like, how can that be? But just as you go about your day, just pay attention to how scents in your environment influence how you feel. Even I'm very aware of this as a aromatherapist when I was driving into my office this morning, and I just was overwhelmed by the scent of like cedar and cypress, and I could not figure out where it was coming from when I was driving because I was actually in town in the city driving. Where is that smell? Oh, but my whole body just instantly relaxed. Pay attention as you walk into your home at night. If you're cooking something, how the smell of like fresh baked cookies instantly makes you smile. There's a reason why those that want to sell their home, why we make fresh baked chocolate chip cookies in our home to increase the sale of the home. There's actually been studies showing that can help with that because when we smell these certain scents like fresh baked cookies, they remind us of like being home, of safety, of security, of warmth, and we can kind of create these same feelings by that scent, right? Another scent actually for selling homes is very popular is orange. Orange is a big one because it really like kind of uplifts people and makes them feel really happy. So if you're trying to sell a home, either bake fresh baked cookies or diffuse orange essential oil within your home. Retail marketing has really been onto this, and they we've labeled as like scent marketing. And a lot of different companies now use different scents as their signature scents to promote and increase sales. So many different brands do this, like Nike, Abercrombie, even Disney. They have like a signature scent. A lot of spas have a signature scent. The scent really influences not only our moods but also our behaviors and actions. It makes us increases the likelihood that we'll purchase something because we have initiated that emotional response within us. So, how do we use scent to reduce stress? So, I have a little section in here about using aromatherapy for stress relief. The beautiful thing about doing this is that it doesn't take long. All of us live these really busy lives, and just simply smelling a scent works within milliseconds. It takes on average 250 milliseconds for that scent to reach our olfactory system and be processed within the brain. And studies have shown that just 3 minutes after inhaling like lavender essential oil, that people feel much more relaxed and they experience less anxiety and that they have better mood, and um, they actually also have increased alertness. So first things first is we always want to find which aromas we like. So just because I like lavender doesn't mean that you will necessarily like lavender. Like we all have our own aroma preferences. So really trying to think about like which scents do you like? Do you like more of the citrus aromas, maybe like lemon or orange or bergamot? Do you like more of the herbaceous aromas such as basil or rosemary? These all make me smile because I love being in my garden and just like touching those and like smelling them. Oh, they just, so calming. Do you like more of the florals, like lavender or chamomile or geranium or even rose? Do you like more woody aromas, black spruce, fir, pine, cypress, cedarwood? Maybe you like more of the spice, kind of spicy aromas, as we enter into the fall and winter season. A lot of people really gravitate towards the spicy aromas like cinnamon and cassia and, oh goodness, cardamom and nutmeg. This is why the sales of tea go up so much during this time of the year because everybody's drinking their chai. So kind of figuring out which aromas that you like. And then the next step would be to use those aromas in stress relieving activities. This is why so many people love drinking tea because just the moment that you sit down with a cup of tea that is warm and just soothing, and it's just that moment to just take that deep breath. That's why so many people enjoy teas because they also form this memory scent association with the scent of their tea and that calming activity of just being still for that one moment of their day. So we want to use those aromas in these stress relief activities. So, just like we did with a cup of tea, but maybe if you're taking a bath or you're doing yoga or meditation, because when we do this later on, when we're using those aromas during moments of stress and overwhelm and anxiety, our brains have now linked this aroma with this calming activity. So we can use them as like proxies to influence how we feel later on. So we can smell that same smell that we used in this calming activity, use it later on, and our brain to remember, and they instantly can soothe us. Another thing to keep in mind when using aromatherapy for stress in particular is to um, address that root of the stress. A lot of people think, I'm going to use aromatherapy because I have headaches or I have sleep disturbances or I have pain. And yes, using aromatherapy can support each of those. But if the underlying cause is stress, we really want to focus on the stress itself. And this is where aromatherapy really shines because we have this, mind body connection. And thinking of it, especially like pain, for example, the definition of pain is unpleasant sensation, but it's also the emotional response to that unpleasant sensation. So, really kind of focusing on these root causes as well as those emotions that can be exacerbating those physical symptoms that we experience in our bodies. So some of my favorite recipes from that section of the mind would be, so many. The tranquil milk foot soaks. I make a tension relief massage oil, which I love. Aromatic Play-Doh recipe. I loved doing that with my kids to kind of soothe them, especially in their younger years when they have more challenging emotions and managing those emotions. Then the next section, I kind of go into the body. So, how can we use aromatherapy for physical well being? Using it specifically for those physical manifestations of stress, or maybe those manifestations of something else going on with the body, headaches, arthritis. I go into talking about using essential oils to support hormones. A lot of different essential oils have properties that can help balance hormones, and numerous studies have shown that they can um, decrease cortisol within the body, that they can potentially affect estrogen levels. Even just this modulatory effect by reducing our stress can also help balance hormones within the body. I actually personally struggle with endometriosis, and I have found this hormone support roller that I share in the book incredibly helpful for just that monthly pain that I experience. Well, actually, I don't experience it anymore, but that because I think my hormone support rollers really help support me through that. But that I used to experience it, so helpful for just kind of balancing those hormones and just providing us support. We talk about using essential oils when we're sick in this book a lot, supporting the respiratory system during cold and flu season, using essential oils for nausea support. If you're battling like a stomach flu or maybe going through chemotherapy, my stepmother battled breast cancer a few years ago and really leaned into essential oils to help support the nausea um, through when struggling with the symptoms of or the side effects of chemotherapy. I also talk a lot about using essential oils for the skin. So not only supporting, glowing skin and balancing our sebum production, but using them for deodorant or fungal issues such as athlete's foot or toe fungus. We talk about using them for the hair. Also first aid. So many essential oils are very supportive. They have vulnerary properties, so they can help soothe and support the skin and promote wound healing. One of my favorite recipes for this is the calendula skin healing balm in the book. Calendula is just a beautiful flower to grow. It readily grows almost everywhere. It's very weather tolerant. And what's really fun about growing it is that the more that you pick it, those flowers, the more that it grows. Just wonderful, wonderful flower to grow. But I actually make a macerated oil with that flower. And the resin from that flower has just beautiful anti inflammatory properties and antifungal properties that can help really like soothe the skin and just promote healing. So I blend it with a couple essential oils that are great for our skin, such as helichrysum and lavender and German chamomile, just to really kind of soothe irritation, redness, bug bites, eczema. Um, Really just, oh, that's like my go-to. I call it like liquid gold because it just works for so many different skin things going on. Yeah, so that's the body section. And then the last section that I wrote in this part would be the home section. And, we spend a great amount of time indoors. Like, I think it's estimated that 90% of our time is spent indoors, which just makes me like, oh, it shouldn't be like that. Um, we can get outside more. That's always more beneficial. But if we are inside, because we can't always get outside, especially during the winter season when it's colder and such, using scent within our homes can really play a significant role in creating just this comforting, inviting, really like safe atmosphere at home. So we can use different essential oils in not only create like this fragrant home, but also in laundry products and cleaning. We can use them as like natural pesticides. I commonly will use essential oils in my garden to deter certain pests, or maybe on our own bodies for like a mosquito repellent spray, which I have a recipe for in the book. Or deter other. We have an issue with like stink bugs in the Pacific Northwest where I live, and I will always kind of take out my stink bug spray every year, which is a blend of like clove and peppermint, and I'll put it on a little cotton ball, and I'll put it in little areas where I see that stink bugs are starting to collect, and they don't like it. They will leave that area, which is really pretty amazing. I've also used different essential oils to help with plants in my garden that have aphids. Just a really natural way to support that plant. It's not going to hurt that plant, but it can help deter some of those pests. I've saved Brussels sprouts this way and a kale plant this way. So many plants I've helped support in this way. After the home chapter, I have a bonus chapter all about perfume. I think perfume is just such a great way to express ourselves and also soothe ourselves throughout the day. A lot of us have different memories and associations with different perfumes and colognes and what others are wearing. Something reminds you of your grandma's perfume or someone you dated in the past, right? Perfume is really important with how we connect with others, but also kind of portray ourselves in a way. And it's so fun to make your own perfumes and formulate them based upon how you want to feel, but how you want others to interpret you. And there's been so many cool studies showing that different scents that we wear can influence how others respond to us. There was a study done a few years ago where they were playing like this money game. And the researchers had each of the participants in the study kind of wear a different scent. And what they found is that the people that wore lavender essential oil, um, they collected the most money. So people gave them the most money in this money game to those that wore lavender. And the researchers claimed that potentially wearing lavender can increase this interpersonal trust with others. So, what I think from this study is that we can actually attribute this to other parts of our lives, such as if we're about to go for a job interview, or we're going to ask for a raise, or maybe you're going to have like a difficult conversation with someone. Lavender can really help kind of promote this trust with others, which is really, really interesting. So, we talk about how to make different perfumes in the book, and sprays and roll ons and botanical salves, and a little bit more about like the science of perfume and why we put it on our wrists, and the role that it plays with our bonding and connection with others. And then lastly is the essential oil directory. So the directory contains the most common essential oils. There are hundreds of different essential oils, but we kind of just really kind of honed in on like the most common ones, the most safe essential oils to use, and talking about each of those particular essential oils. So I organized it by what plant part those essential oils are derived from. So if those essential oils are derived from the flowers or the leaves or the roots or the seeds or the fruits. And the reason why it's organized in this way is because each plant part has a really symbolic meaning. Um, for example, like essential oils that are derived from the leaves and the needles, such as like eucalyptus and peppermint, oftentimes they represent like clarity and transformation. They help us feel really invigorated and refreshed. Essential oils that are derived from flowers, they really embody like self love and forgiveness. And they symbolize beauty and tranquility. Essential oils that are derived from the fruits, such as like lemon or bergamot or lime, these can be really uplifting and cleansing. They symbolize purification. They can promote energy and focus. So each of these like botanical connections, it helps us kind of understand that essential oil's natural origin. And I wanted the reader to be able to go to those different sections and be like, I'm feeling, maybe I have a lack of self-confidence. Maybe they could go to some of the flowers and choose one of the flowers that they feel kind of called to. Maybe they're feeling really like overwhelmed and off balance, like we do sometimes, especially during stressful seasons. And they could go to the essential oils that are derived from the stems or the wood or the bark and pick one of those essential oils to learn more about or use. So in the directory, I kind of go over all of the properties of each of the different essential oils, how to use them, what they blend well with, some of the safety, as well as what are some good substitutions. Sometimes it can be really overwhelming to have, 50 different essential oils. So if you don't have all the essential oils listed in the book, at least there's some substitutions where you could say, oh, okay, I could use this essential oil instead of this in that recipe, and it would work in similar ways or have a very similar scent. So that's kind of the book. Um, I didn't really have anything else to add. So is there any questions that you have? Oh, definitely the trees. So growing up on the Christmas tree farm, always just black spruce, fir, white spruce, pine. Like I always find myself always gravitating towards the tree oils anytime I'm stressed or overwhelmed because it reminds me of home and my parents and just my childhood. Um, my husband would be upset with me that I wouldn't say the perfume that we used at our wedding, but I do really enjoy that one as well. Actually, it was interesting because I don't use that perfume quite as much as I used to, just because it is more synthetic. And I feel like as we use pure essential oils more and more, we become more sensitive to synthetic fragrances because we've grown our olfactory palate and we're just more aware. Like usually people that kind of transition to more natural scents. When they go to the grocery store and they walk down that grocery store aisle and it has like the cleaning aisle at the grocery store, a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, like they instantly feel overwhelmed by all the scents and they'll get a headache or they'll feel kind of like foggy or sometimes even feel like nauseated. And that's just because you've grown your olfactory palate and your brain now knows the difference between synthetic and natural, and you're much more aware of those differences and how they affect how you feel. So I don't really use it very much, but I did smell that perfume earlier this year because I was like, oh, I haven't smelled this forever. I'm going to smell it. And instantly I was like brought to tears and I was like flooded with all these memories of our wedding that I haven't thought about in years. And I was like, whoa. And it just happens so like a split second that you are like flooded with these memories. Like it catches you almost off guard. I think most people have experienced this in so many different ways. It is just the most powerful like time travel machine that we have. Yeah, it brings another like definition of like forest bathing, right? Because we can kind of do that a little bit at home and not have to visit the forest because it's not always readily available to everyone. Oh, I love this. Ooh, hmm. That is a really good question. Signature scent. Hmm. That one kind of stumped me a little bit. I'm thinking about different actresses and actors that wear different scents to like portray their roles when they're in different like acting, which that like kind of brought up that in my brain. I was like, oh, that reminds me of how different actors and actresses do that. I think right now, I wouldn't say this is my signature forever, but at this moment in my life, I have been really leaning towards vanilla and not synthetic vanilla because that is much different than like pure fragrant vanilla. Like if you ever had a vanilla bean, like it's just ooh, like it almost makes you drool thinking about it because it just is such a comforting aroma. But recently I have just loved vanilla, and vanilla is just really important for like nurturing our soul within and creating this sense of like safety. And maybe it's like the fall season and it's getting a little colder here or whatnot. But like I just recently made a vanilla infused jojoba oil, and you basically to make it, it's so easy. It's just like making vanilla extract, except the base is different. So vanilla infused jojoba oil, you just cut the vanilla beans in half. You put them in jojoba oil, you let it sit for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then you drain it. And I just, or strain it. So I just strained mine a couple days ago, and the scent is so good. I actually just been using it as like a moisturizer on my skin, and you could blend other essential oils with it. But yeah, I've been loving vanilla lately. Woody for sure. Always the wood. I will say though, kind of adding to that though, this can change with time. So even though like I like the woody aromas right now, or you like a certain aroma right now, next week it could be something completely different. Or in a different season or chapter of life. Like there's so much that is involved in our aroma preferences. So hormones, age, just different seasons in life, different memories and associations, even our expectations can play a role in our preferences at that time. But we can also grow our olfactory palate to begin to like aromas that we did not like in the past. Just kind of like as children, you try foods more than once and you start to kind of like them the first time you didn't, but now you like love them. It's kind of similar to different scents in a way. And there's certain scents like I did not like for a very long time. Like patchouli, I was never really a huge fan of. Frankincense, I didn't really despise frankincense, but I just didn't really, I'd never had like really an experience with it. A lot of people aren't really familiar with the scent of it, so they don't know what to think until they start forming that memories and association and using it in like these stress relieving activities. So this can change with time, but mine definitely, I don't know. It would be difficult to change with time because I just have such a strong link with woody aromas. But chamomile is one of those, though. The essential oil, Roman chamomile, I never used to really enjoy. Like it was okay, but it was so strong and just like, whew. And I started growing chamomile in my garden a couple of years ago, and I formed this new like association and understanding and appreciation with the plant. And now when I smell Roman chamomile, I love it. And I actually make a chamomile tea every day and I just enjoy it. So it can change too. It's such a good question because scent just influences how we feel in so many ways. Like you go to a friend's house, and the first thing you do when you walk in the door is you smell. And we do this like subconsciously, but we do this with others as well. So when we hug someone, you may not realize it, but now you're going to. The first thing you do subconsciously, like you don't even realize that you're doing it, is you smell that person. That is instant thing that we do. Actually, there was a cool study done at the UC Berkeley that showed that when we shake someone's hand, it's kind of a weird study, but when we shake somebody's hand, within like 1 minute, and the study showed like with 100% accuracy, within 1 minute of shaking that person's hand, we smell our hand, which is like so weird. It's probably why we get sick. But like, it's really weird. They actually have videos, the study, they have so many videos showing this over and over and over with the participants and how they're like, oh, they'll just be right back. I'm so and so. And they do that. And the second that they leave, they smell their hand. I'm like, oh my gosh. But that's one of the reasons why we wear perfume like on our wrists too. Because that can help. Not only do we talk with our hands a lot, or we touch our face with our hands, we smell in that way, but also how we kind of like connect it or like transfer that scent to somebody else. So other scents that kind of influences. So scents can influence not only, others' reactions to us, but ourselves and how we personally portray ourselves to others. So they can make us feel a certain way, which is why actresses sometimes will wear certain scents in certain roles to like get them in that role more. So if you wanted to portray like love and like compassion with others, like a beautiful aroma to wear would be rose. Um, And actually, rose, there was just a study that came out a couple months ago showing that even just wearing rose on clothing every day actually increases gray matter in the brain, which is important for like memory formation. Like, there's so many cool studies that have been coming out lately. But rose is a really good one for like even just like forgiveness. If you're going through grief or sorrow or struggling with like, um, just conflict even with another person, like rose would be a good one. If you, I know I'm kind of leaning towards feminine, but I'll lean towards masculine as well. But if you are like feeling like a lack of self-confidence or you want to kind of boost your self-esteem, ylang ylang is a really good one for that. Um, Sandalwood is another kind of more earthy aroma that could potentially influence others around you because it has such a grounding, like calming aspect to it. Trying to think if there's any other ones that really kind of stand out as far as their influence to others. Um, Vetiver is another one, and which vetiver is actually really commonly used in like colognes as well as perfumes because it has like this fixative property. So it can kind of hold that aroma blend together. Sometimes when we use a lot of essential oils that have or scents that have like kind of top notes and they kind of wear off really quickly, like vetiver is one for like, oh, like holding it together. And vetiver could really kind of help kind of portray this sense of like stability with others if you smell that one. So that's some examples there. This is there's so many. There's so many that make me cry. There's this one, oh gosh, there's so many. Gosh, okay. Maybe I'll think of like a here, I'll give a mind example, then I'll give a body example. So, um, this one person reached out to me. I never forget this because I just think it's so cool. So, our most pronounced memory scent associations are formed before the age of 10 years old. And I've always been very intrigued by scent and memory and how they're just so intertwined. And she actually shared about the story in the book. She went to this perfume store and she smelled this perfume that contained like this fig aroma. Basically it smelled like figs, and she smelled it and she's like instantly she thought of her mom and being outdoors, and she just like could not did not know where like the scent connection came from. She's just like flooded with all these memories of her mom, and her mom had like passed away many years ago, and on her way home she called her dad, and she said to her dad, like, I was at the perfume store. I smelled this scent of figs. Like, I was overwhelmed with all these memories of mom. Like, it's just weird to me. Like, I don't get it. Like, I can't stop thinking about her. And he said, oh, I know why. And she's like, why? And he said, because when you were younger, we had a fig tree in our backyard, and you and your mom would commonly go out and pick these figs when you were very young, like at 2 years old. When you were 3 years old, we actually cut that tree down because it, whatever mechanics or it was blocking the light or something, and they cut the fig tree down. So we don't, you probably don't remember this tree or um, even have seen pictures of it. And she thought this was just, I just thought this was so wild because a lot of the times we don't remember a lot of things when we're 2 years old, right? But our brains will forever associate this connection. So I don't think we realize like how scent can influence how we feel later on in life due to just these memories that are formed at a very, very early age, even just in utero when we are growing. Um, like scent plays a huge role in how that affects us and the stress of the mother or whatnot. Another story recently that always brings me to tears is um, I often share about like this hair oil that I constantly make. So studies have shown that rosemary essential oil can help promote healthy hair growth, even more so than like minoxidil, which is like a commonly prescribed medication. And I always share about it because I'm like, I love it. My hair grows so fast. And hair is like a big thing for people. Like, it's like hair is probably of all the things that we just form our connection with ourselves. And it's really, really important actually. Um, well, I won't go into that, but this follower said, I saw your hair oil recipe with the rosemary essential oil in it, and I made it for my mom. And my mom recently had brain cancer and she had radiation to her head. And the doctors told her that she would never, ever grow hair in that spot, ever. And I just made her this hair oil that you had, and she's been using it. And her hair is starting to grow. And she showed a picture to me, and it had just with little like wisps of hair coming in. And she said, "My mom is so excited and so grateful, and thank you so much." And that's kind of where it ended. And she's like, "Thank you." And like 6 months later, it wasn't even, it was like 4 months later, she reached out to me. She's like, "Look at my mom's hair." And it was like you would have, like, it was so thick. It was like at least like 2 inches tall. Like all the spots were in. She's like, it's thicker than what she had before, like pre-cancer. And it was just growing in so beautifully. And just seeing her mom and the head of hair, and it just brought me to tears. So that's probably two of my favorite stories. There's so many, so many stories of different ways. Yeah, I feel like every day I tear up over a story, but those are probably two of my favorite that I think they really like kind of hit my heart. Because I just I thought they are just incredible. So I would lean into like a small amount of essential oil. So the good thing about essential oils is that they have multiple different therapeutic properties. So they can do lots of different things. So, like for example, like lavender essential oil is considered like the Swiss Army knife of essential oils because it not only makes us calm and support sleep, but it can help with bug bites. It can help with our sebum. It has anti-inflammatory properties that can help with muscle aches and tension. It can help with headaches. Like there's so many things that it can do. So instead of buying all these different essential oils, there's really kind of like a select, like 5 to 10 that are really beneficial for so many different things. And most of these, a lot of people really enjoy. Like the number one thing I always say is to find those essential oils that you enjoy the scent of. Because if you don't like the smell, like you're not going to use it. Like no matter how amazing it is for the body or the mind, like you're just, if it smells like sneaky feet, you're probably not going to use it at all. So going maybe to a soap store or even like a Whole Food grocery store, sometimes they have samples out that you can even just like smell and start like introducing your olfactory palette to them, like noticing which ones you smell and that you instantly feel like calm and relaxed. I do this with my children too. Every single year prior to school, they'll each make like a aromatherapy inhaler like this that they can take to school and smell, or if they have butterflies or if something's bothering them at school. And it's so interesting because every year what I do is just I'll take out, 5 to different essential oils and they'll just smell them and they'll make their own blends. And I'm so surprised by what they choose every year because sometimes we use those oils, sometimes we don't as much. But that's how I found out my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's obsessed and loves bergamot. Like she smells bergamot and her eyes just like her eyelids sink, like she just, you feel her whole body just relax and she just smells it. She's like, oh, that big sigh. Like those are the oils that you want, the ones that make you feel like that. But there are some that I would say like a handful that are great for so many different things. So lavender is one of my top 10. Eucalyptus is a really great one. I feel like should be in every home because it really helps kind of open up those airways. It's great for like cough and congestion. And you don't have to use them in like fancy ways. Like eucalyptus, a great way to use is just to add a couple drops to the floor of your shower while you're showering and create like this steam shower effect if you're feeling congested or battling a cough. Um, or lavender, adding, a drop to your pillow at night to help you sleep. These are all like super, super simple ways to use them that you don't need a lot of like extra supplies. Um, Other oils that I really like, tea tree is great. It's great for bug bites. It's great for blemishes and acne. It's great for cleaning. Lemon is another great one for cleaning. Lemon is called like, we call it like the sunshine oil because when you smell lemon, you can't help but smile. Like it's just, it's really, even when I teach to my students about lemon, like we try to smell it, and I'm like, don't smile. And it's just like, because it's so uplifting and cleansing and bright. Um, I love the good woody oil, so I always say black spruce is one of my like top 10. A lot of us have that memory set association with like Christmas time, with the woody aromas. Um, Trying to think others. Chamomile is another really good one that's just very, very, very calming. I do have a list in the book as well with like my top 10 that are like my cupboard essentials. Rosemary is another really great one. It helps with like memory and focus. It's actually, I consider it like the little sister to lavender because it does so many things as well. But not only is it great for hair health, but really focused, like focus, memory. There's a reason why like Greek scholars would wear rosemary like on their heads to like kind of boost their memory when they're studying for exams. Or like Shakespeare, like in his in Hamlet, he says, you know, there's rosemary, that's for remembrance. I know that line I'm messing up a little bit, but something similar to that. They talk about rosemary. Peppermint is another really great one. I think peppermint does so many different things. It's not just like that scent of like candy canes that people associate it with, but it does kind of open the airways. It wakes you up in the morning. I actually apply a little bit diluted behind my ears prior to exercising every day, especially the days that I don't want to exercise, but I know I'll feel better if I do. um, because the second I roll it on, not only have I created like this memory scent association with it, but it kind of wakes me up. It gets me ready to go. And there's been studies showing that it improves athletic performance, stamina, endurance, increases bronchial dilation, helps you breathe better. I like it because it helps with like, I'm a runner, so if I run outside when it's cold out, I don't love how my ears like throb, that like ear pain that you get because your ears don't have a lot of like fat around them, so they get like that throbbing from running. And a little bit of peppermint behind my ears, like every time. I know the days I forget it because I'm like, dang it, like I forgot it today. Helps so much. But peppermint's great for pain. It's great for headaches. It has this menthol constituent. So menthol has like that cooling sensation when we apply it to our skin. This is why when you chew peppermint gum, it's like it feels cool and it kind of wakes you up or whatnot. But that menthol constituent within peppermint really helps to soothe pain. And applying a little diluted on your forehead or the back of your neck can really kind of decrease some of that inflammation and make you feel better. I hope my book plays a huge role in it. Um, you know, so many ways that I see aromatherapy evolving. I think as we continue to live in this very like fast-paced world and have very busy lifestyles, I think more than ever people are going to want to look for ways to help them slow down and be more in the present moment. I feel like we're constantly being, there's noise all around us in so many ways. I'm sure my phone has gone off like 15 times just sitting here. Like our brains are so overstimulated, and our sense of smell is such a great way to instantly make us feel more in this present moment. There's so many examples that I could share. This has happened to me in my life, even just like taking a walk. I kind of like, "Ooh," it's like this invisible sense that makes you more aware of your surroundings and can initiate that like peaceful relaxation response within you. So I mean, it is estimated that the aromatherapy industry is expected to continue to expand and thrive. And especially as more and more research studies have come out. Um, Even this year, there's been some incredible studies on it improving just brain functionality. There's a study that came out that showed that just diffusing for 2 hours at nighttime can increase cognitive performance by 226%, which is like a huge amount. So as we age, like our sense of smell begins to diminish. And with that comes a decline in memory. So we are finding that if we can train our sense of smell and use our sense of smell and just like kind of use it like a muscle, like the more that we use it and train it by smelling different things and intentionally being aware of it, we can potentially decrease these signs of decreased memory and cognitive performance as we age. So there's been some really cool studies, even just the rose and the increase in the gray matter. And I think these studies are starting to open up doors for more and more studies on these topics and influencing patients that have Parkinson's and dementia and those aspects as well. There's also been just cool studies of showing that we have olfactory receptors in different parts of our body and not just our nose, and how that may play a role in how diseases and different conditions are going. Oh my gosh, like Australia, they're doing a amazing clinical trial. They just started it. They found that so our olfactory receptor neurons actually regenerate every 28 days, and they're very different from any other neurons located within the body. And a lot of neurons are very difficult to regenerate. So they found through in vitro tests that this can actually, by placing it near like spinal tissue neurons, they can actually help regenerate those spinal tissue neurons. And they're doing this clinical trial hoping that this may play a role in those that have spinal cord injuries. So, like all these studies, I feel like are opening up doors to how our sense of smell is so important, but also how we can use essential oils to support our health and well being. And I'm hopeful that my book, Aroma Alchemy, kind of like opens the door and makes it approachable for people to use essential oils to support just their healthy lives, and support healing if they're going through something. Good question. So in the directory of the book, I do go over all the shelf lives of each individual essential oil. The beautiful thing about essential oils is that they don't expire per like the definition of expiration, which means like to terminate or end, or like the food definition means to like grow mold or bacteria or go rancid. Like essential oils don't do that. There's like no water-based component within them. So pure essential oils won't grow bacteria or mold or yeast or anything like that. So they do have a really beautiful shelf life. Most essential oils are very good for between 3 to 5 years, the majority of them, which is a pretty good amount. Some, as long as they're stored properly, we want to store them. We don't want to put them, out in the 120-degree Fahrenheit day, a really hot day, or leave them in a really hot car or in direct sunlight. That's why they're often found in like amber colored glass bottles, is to protect them from the sun. Because if they are exposed to like heat and light, they can't oxidize. So they're not going to grow mold and bacteria, but that those chemicals can slightly change. And if they are oxidized, they can potentially cause some irritation when applied to the skin. So we always want to store them like in a cool, kind of dark place. I live in a very like mild temperature here in Seattle, so I feel comfortable just storing them on a shelf or whatnot. But if I lived in like a tropical region where it was very, very hot, I may consider just storing them in the refrigerator to prevent that. But most essential oils are good for 3 to 5 years. As far as like, do they get better with time? There really hasn't been much like research on that. Like some essential oils, for example, like the more viscous oils, the thicker oils, such as like rose and patchouli or vetiver, those ones, it's not to show that they get better with time, but they do last a lot longer. So the viscous oils can last, 10, 12 years. So a small bottle of rose, which is very, very expensive, can really last you like a very, very, very long time. Mm, yes. All the time. Trying to think of the most common ones. So, you know, a really common one that I hear a lot, I don't hear it as much anymore because I feel like I've educated so much about this, is that essential oils are all placebo, that they don't actually work, that it's just our mind thinking that it works. And I love when someone kind of has that conversation with me, because essential oils are made up of dozens to hundreds of chemical constituents. And these constituents, what we know about science and chemistry is that they do have varying effects within the body. And a lot of these constituents are used in modern day medicine. Like there's so many modern day medicines, there's actually over 100 plant derived medicines now that are used on a daily basis. Like they have actually like changed lives and supported patients in several different ways. And essential oils, like, why wouldn't they work if their constituents are synthetically reproduced to help support the body. Like there's so many examples. Morphine is derived from a plant, digoxin, aspirin. Um, I could go on and on and on. A lot of steroids are produced from plants. So I think that's one of the most common misconceptions about essential oils is that they're all placebo. But then I also look at that definition of placebo as something that is harmless that works to support the body. And like, if there's something harmless out there that's going to help support the body, like I'm all for it. Like research has shown, even when people know that they're taking a placebo, that it has positive effects within the body. So, not to say that essential oils are not harmless. I mean, they do. They are very potent and very powerful. And when used in inappropriate ways, they potentially um, can cause like skin irritations or whatnot. We don't want to ingest essential oils unless you're under the discretion of a certified aromatherapist. It's not something I want to just chug down this whole bottle or anything like that. So there is always like this other side to that as well. Mm, okay, that's a great question. So if you would like to kind of train your sense of smell, the best way is just to just to smell more. My students in my class, I teach like a 15-week aromatherapy certification course. And at the beginning of the class, I tell them that their nose will not be the same at the end of the class. And the reason being is because as they begin to use their sense of smell more, they'll start to pick up those individual constituents and they'll start to learn more about them. And it's interesting, like you'll smell eucalyptus, and the smell of eucalyptus that most people smell is it's that eucalyptol component. It's called 1,8-cinolol, which is that chemical that's present within eucalyptus. And as you begin to smell other essential oils, you begin to pick up that little constituent within other essential oils, such as laurel or ravensara or lots of different essential oils that contain that 1,8-cinolol. So just smelling more is the best way to do it. Forming like these kind of associations with different smells, noticing the similarities between different scents is really important in growing your olfactory palate. Also being aware of just like food and tasting it, the flavor of food doesn't come from how it tastes. The flavor comes from how it smells. This is why when we plug our nose and we eat something, like it has zero taste to it at all, right? So just being really aware of like slowing down, smelling your cup of tea. Where have I smelled this before? Just intentional, like very intentional about, and then noticing how that affects how you feel. Yeah, there's so much that we like take for granted or don't really realize when it comes to our sense of smell in so many different ways until we lose our sense of smell. And then we're like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. They did this survey with like young adults a few years ago, ages like 18 to 25. They surveyed like 1,000 young adults in this age. And they asked them, would you rather lose your phone like for life or would you rather lose your sense of smell? And like 75% of them said that they would like to lose their sense of smell and not their phone. And I think that they should repeat that now after COVID because I feel like so many people lost their sense of smell that they realize like the importance of it now and how it just connects with so many aspects of our lives. And how it's important for not only that, but just as we age and our memory and our cognitive performance. And if we can use it more and train it more, it's only going to help us more in the end. Having a loss of sense of smell is actually a study came out recently that just showed that it's attributed to 100, it's like a warning sign for 140 different health conditions. So this is why it's so important to use it as much as we can. Our sense of smell is the least researched, least understood. And that's why I think like in the future, we're going to start learning a lot more about it. And that's where I think like aroma alchemy will come into play and essential oils and it's something that's really going to evolve with time, and I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah, so they can find me on my Instagram is probably where I'm most prominently from day to day. I'm constantly sharing education on there, which is Science of Essentials. I also have my website, scienceofessentials.com. Those are probably the two easiest ways to reach me.